This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with.
This is episode 517, where every AI knows your name. Hello and welcome again to another edition of GamesAtWork.biz. This is Michael Martin, one of your three co-hosts, and I'm delighted to be joined again today by all the other co-hosts of the show. So, Michael Rowe, let's start with you. Great to be here with you today on a fun Friday. How are you doing?
I am well and glad to be here too. Also with our friend Andy Piper. How are you?
I am well. Last weekend I built a frog.
A frog?
A frog.
Ooh.
I was at the Open Hardware Summit.
You didn't start with a tadpole?
Or a F period O period RG period.
I don't know what that last one is.
Okay. You just made up an ETLA, right?
Was
an extended three-letter acronym?
I was at the Open Hardware Summit in Edinburgh last Friday and Saturday, and on Saturday we did some workshops, and one of them was to build a Ribbit Networks frog sensor, which is now sitting outside recording carbon dioxide levels to contribute to a crowdsourced map of pollution and well, not pollution, but CO2 levels. And it's kind of fun.
Very cool.
Very nicely built little device.
Is it solar powered?
It isn't. They've got a solar panel powered one coming out. It's currently USB powered by battery, but it's a fun little thing.
Are you going to have it not only contribute to the open source part of the data, but also toot the data out on Mastodon so we can kind of see the carbon dioxide levels in your area?
That would be a good idea. So I've got a whole document of things that I'm proposing that they update. Within 5 minutes of getting home and playing with it some more, I wrote a whole page of notes about things that I wish it did, or things that I would change, or things I want to do, or so they're currently not on Mastodon, which is a bit of a miss, but we need to get that fixed.
That would be number one.
And the devices use a protocol called CoAP, Constrained Applications Protocol, which is an alternative to our friend MQTT. So there's some different things to consider there in terms of how the data is got in and out and reused. But yeah, definitely thinking about ways I can add to the public data sphere.
Andy, didn't you have, and I'm drawing a blank on what it was, but it was years ago, something similar around CO2 detection in London that... Are
you thinking of the Pigeon Air Patrol?
Yes, that's it.
I mean, it wasn't mine. Yes. That was
But you did something with it, right?
Yeah, so when I worked at Twitter, there was a company that put little tiny backpacks on pigeons and used them to be like live data sensors around London and other cities in the world where they would tweet out the air quality. But I've always been interested in this area, so it was an obvious workshop for me to go along and get involved in.
Obviously.
Frogs and pigeons, and now we're on to teeny, tiny computers. So you saw in our little chat log, what we were talking about with that itty-bitty little Mac that you can't buy anymore even if you wanted to. But there's a stamp-sized, another little computer. I think, Andy, didn't you find this one from Atari?
Yeah, so the Atari came out in the 70s originally, the computers, and evidently they were huge in Poland.
Yes.
Which I hadn't really clocked. I knew that Eastern Europe at that time, there were different waves of interest in different technologies. But anyway, there's now somebody who's made the equivalent of an Atari XL, I think, which runs using FPGA on a tiny little board about the size of a small coin or a Lego brick. And yes, it's very neat. I think it's meant to what does it emulate? The Atari 400?
800.
800.
Yeah, it's the one with the real keyboard as the one to the one that had that you sort of weird keyboard thing.
I had friends who had both Atari 400s and 800s. I so desperately wanted one, and this, as soon as I saw this, brought back flashes of fun playing. What was it? Dig Dug, playing. What was the Pitfall? Pitfall on the Atari 2.
There's a lovely vintage screenshot in the article from Ars Technica here of some folks playing Donkey Kong, actually. From a German magazine there. So, I just thought that was really fun. Of course, it being a stamp-sized computer, you can't actually use it without then wiring the stamp up to a bunch of ports that let you plug it into peripherals to get a display and out and an input in. So, it is cute that it's so tiny, but not very practical.
Yeah, it's kind of almost the picture almost looks like a three-legged spider because it's got these giant cables coming out to this little tiny board.
The other cool thing in the article here is that one of the comments is from the original product marketing manager from the original Atari team for the 600, 800, and 1200 XL.
Yeah,
being very excited to see it and wanting to get his hands on that. So I think that's really fun.
That's fantastic.
Oh, and they were going to bring back his FidoNet BBS. My bulletin board I used to run was also on FidoNet. More good times.
Well, moving along, we've got an article from the Wall Street Journal, which was a fun article for me because it did something that tech writers for the mass market, not for the tech people who are reading this, did a really nice job of explaining how the artificial experience is moving along. And they use the theme of movies, right? So one of the movies is 50 First Dates. And for those who've not seen that particular movie, you can probably interpret it that it is 50 individual first dates and it's brand new, getting to know you each and every single time. It's because the character, the female character, has a 24-hour memory, so she literally loses her memory every day. And has to start. The guy has to start over again, and they both have to start over again. So that's kind of the shtick of the movie. But yeah, yes. And
I was about to say I hadn't seen it.
Well, now you know the whole plot.
Yeah.
You know, spoiler
it's Adam
alert.
Sandler.
Sorry
what else
for that.
do you need to know?
Yeah.
And Drew Barrymore, apparently, right?
Oh, that's right.
So the title says it's going from 50 First Dates, as Andy just explained, to Cheers. And for those that don't know the 80s comedy Cheers, one of the things there is that there's a famous character who comes into the bar and everybody in the bar knows Norm because he is there every single time. And the character, the actor who played that character, unfortunately just passed away. So this is in the
last week,
zeitgeist.
I think.
Very close by. George Wendt is his name. And so anyhow, this is a nice explanation for an audience that is trying to understand where is the artificial intelligence state of the art actually going. And this connects to me really nicely with, Michael, what you and I talked about with Sky last week, of how the various data sets, in the case of Sky, in your Mac OS environment, could be connected to one another to be able to do something really intelligent, as opposed to, I'm just looking for a search to have a summarization of a particular thing that I'm trying to find from the internets. So the example in the article talks about how it might notice that you have something on your calendar and help you then prepare for it by providing you, in the example of a student who's got an exam coming up. I see you have an exam. We need to schedule some time to make sure you know what you're supposed to do. And here I've created some flashcards for you. Let's go through them. And that is a movement in a direction that is easy for a non-technical audience to grok. So loved it for that particular reason.
And for our non-technical audience, grok means understand.
Yes.
Even though there's an AI called Grok also, right?
Exactly. So set it up, shoot two. Well done, Michael. Now, we had another AI article that was, the headline tells it all.
Yes, it does.
This is from, what's it called? Dextro.com. And the title says, an AI company files for bankruptcy. And why did they file for bankruptcy, friends?
Because they weren't an AI company. They literally had an army of people.
They were a bunch of people in a trench coat.
Probably paid way under their skill level. They've been around for a long time. I mean, I actually heard of the company's name before, Builder.ai.
Yeah.
And I remember that name for years now, and evidently they had the .ai in order to imply that they were AI, but they were really just a body shop. And they couldn't keep up. I guess AIs have gotten so good that the body shop didn't work anymore.
Well, there's a few interesting details. First of all, Microsoft had poured lots of money into it.
$500 million.
It was described as a neural network.
Which it was.
It was, well, yeah.
Yep. It was a network of neurons
as
for
described
people.
here, the fast lasted for 8 years, which, predates the current sort of AI wave, really. So they just pivoted with the marketing and continued referring, by the looks of it, to or continued to do what they were doing, but used new language to refer to what they were doing, with nothing being under the covers. Pretty disappointing for that company and anybody who invested in them. But this has been happening for many years, we know, with Mechanical Turk and various other things. There's been ways of labeling human. Amazon Mechanical Turk and not the historical Mechanical Turk. Ways of labeling human tasks and behaviors as an API, a technology. Yes.
Yep.
So continuing that theme of how might you vibe code your way into an actual application with AI directly, a listener link that came in my direction from IGN.com deals with an article about how you might build a team as complicated as Breath of the Wild, which I kind of seriously doubt, but let's go with it, by allowing the AI to do all of the dialogue and go forward from there. And when I first saw this, I thought to myself, well, we already have examples of this where the non-player characters, the NPCs in games, have a way to hook directly into a large language model and interact with you a little bit more dynamically. It's not just, do you want to say, please give me the sword, or, ask them about the magician on the hill, where you get 1 or 2 or 3 intents to go do, but you can actually interact. That's been around for a while. This is taking it to the next level.
I read this article, and this is one of those ones where, like, the hair stood up on the back of my neck for probably different reasons than most. And that is, okay, so this was from the Epic's State of Unreal event, right? So it's the Unreal gaming engine, which focuses on the graphics and a little bit of the interaction part, but they're trying to position and the CEO of that, and it's positioning them into the valuable part is the graphics. Everything else is garbage. You can use an AI to build that for you. And so whenever I see any articles where someone's predicting how things are going to radically change to benefit their company, I have to question the motives. Yes, we have talked about using large language models to generate dialogue and make it a little bit more dynamic. This is trying to decimate part of the, and I'm using strong words on purpose, it's decimating part of the industry to say this is where the real value is. Nothing else is valuable. That can be taken away. That's how I read it.
Yes. So I agree with you, and when we shared this between us, I immediately quipped that, the games that would come out from this kind of situation, the comparison being, well, you can just use AI prompts to generate Breath of the Wild, which is widely seen as a absolute masterpiece in breadth of exploration, attention to detail, story, all kinds of elements to it. And I kind of said, if you would just try to do that with AI prompts, it would be a crap game. Having said that, I've recently been experimenting with my bird feeder with writing some code to choose the images for me that are interesting, to save me having to go through the mobile app and review all the images. I tell an AI, an LLM, that it's a photo critic and it should figure out which are interesting for me. And it's not perfect, but it's okay. And there's prompting involved. You need to craft the prompt. Is that building an entire world and dynamically creating interesting new situations that make sense to a player of a game? No, which is why I think that Tim Sweeney's probably being a little bit hyperbolic, overexcited, and as Michael rightly points out, it's also about reducing the workforce, getting rid of the people that have the creativity, because you can just tell a cheap old little Atari, little stamp-sized Atari to do all the work for you. But no, I think that there is no doubt that he is right that AI prompts will be a fundamental part of game engines, but I don't think that I don't think that there is. I believe that there is a mismatch between the goals of capital in doing that and the interests of opening up creativity and opportunity to more people.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Well, and I wanted to follow up on your prompt for the bird camera. I too have been doing some playing around with. I needed to write some back-end code for an application I'm working on, and I'm not a back-end developer, right? I like working on the mobile device or whatever, and I actually prompted my way through an entire framework with all the features I needed. Now, it's not secure, because I can read the code, and I looked at the code.
And how did that Docker...
it crashes consistently.
How did that Docker
container...
And the
Docker instance resets.
Yeah, how did that Docker container work out for you?
Yeah.
Michael and
I do have...
Michael and I had a little exchange earlier in the week about running Docker containers on our NAS, and I went to create one myself today and thought... I'm going to do it on my Proxmox server instead, and I'm going to set up a VM, and I'm going to run a load of Docker containers in that, because I know more likely what it's going to do.
Well, what's so funny is I can run that exact same Docker image on my Mac Studio, and it runs rock solid. It runs fine. I can connect to it, blah, 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 blah. I put it on the NAS, and it resets every hour. On the hour, like to the minute. So, and it'll crash the server, not the database. The server crashes, and then it stands back up again. So I'm wondering if there's like a memory constraint I'm running into, and there's a memory leak that, given the 64 gigs of RAM that I have on my desktop, it would never run into, and the constrained environment on the Docker image on the NAS just didn't have enough memory, and it's crashing that way. But I can't find the logs. They're not generated. I've done everything. I've SSH'd into it. Everything, no frickin' logs.
This makes for excellent listening.
It really does. Welcome to Dockers Are Us, and we'll take the next caller in who's got a restart.
So if you're a Docker expert and want to reach out to me, I'd love to talk to you.
Oh my goodness!
Hit me up
gracious.
on Mastodon.
All right. Well, we've got an AR article here about something called the Space Top.
Yes.
And as per usual. What I love about these things is we're looking at them on a two-dimensional website, so it's a little hard to kind of get how this is all necessarily going to work.
Got pictures.
Yeah, I know that's 2 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Don't you remember trying to talk about the 3D internet and to describe it in charts?
Isn't Samsung coming out with a 3D monitor again? We need one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about this one is the use case that I have. Mostly for my Vision Pro right now, except when I'm coding on it, is the exact use case that this tries to achieve at 1/4 of the price.
Yes.
Right?
Ooh.
Wait.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Wait.
That's the important part.
Yeah.
What's 1/4 of the price?
It's $899.
Right. So it's 1/4 of the price of your Vision Pro.
Yes.
Right. As long as we got that the right way around. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they do a really good showing of a conceptual artwork of it. And the thing I don't like about it is I think these glasses are hideous, and they look like something out of cyberpunk, right, with the multiple lenses on top of each other.
Well, that's the prescription inserts, as it says. Yeah, in one of the later images. But the X-Real glasses get really good write-ups and reviews, and people I know have,
and that's what this is.
Tried them. So,
but again, this is also it's using the X-Real, but at a piece of software that allows you to create Windows virtual desktops and split out the applications and stuff, kind of like the Vision Pro does. But you're buying into a yearly subscription for that feature,
right?
And that's the part that I'm like, really? Come on. There's no need for a subscription for that.
Right, it's hardware.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a great use case, and I saw this and I thought, if I didn't like the ecosystem and I didn't like my Vision Pro for other things, this might be interesting.
I was originally going to make fun of the image for the person on an airplane doing this. And then I thought for a second, wait a second, if you're sitting way back in coach like we normally travel, you could create an AR environment that you could operate in, even if you're sitting in coach.
Yeah.
And even if the person in front of you leans their seat back.
Pushes their seat back, yep.
Doesn't really matter because your AR environment would be just fine.
Exactly. And that's the great thing on the Vision Pro too, especially because you can look down, you can see the keyboard.
Yeah.
And you have these massive 127 inches of monitors right in front of you.
Yeah. So I meant to poke fun, and then I realized that there's no fun to be poked.
Exactly, man. I love it.
Yeah. So fun or not fun. All right. Next up, this is yet again another fun story here in my mind, and it deals with a running game that I came across. When was this? Earlier this week, and it's from Runner's World as an article on Apple News, and unfortunately that's well behind a paywall, so it makes it more difficult for us to bring a link. We'll do the best we can for you, but this is a game where you are out in the real world while at the same time you are in a virtual world, and it is the intersection between the two that allows this game of interactive hide and seek, find the people in the real world while you're dealing with the overlay of the data to try to work through this. And this is based upon a game called Bot Fighters Can You See Me Now? One of arguably one of the first, they call it, location-based games. And this is out of the UK. And I was really curious to know, Andy, if you'd encountered this at any point before, because they've been around for a little while.
So just to clarify, this is Bot Makers is a separate game to Can You See Me Now? There's a reference here to two location-based games.
Oh, yes, sorry. That's right. There's two. Excuse me. Thank you.
It's written in a confusing way, so that just clarifying that. No, I feel like I must have been aware of this at some point in the past, because it was going back 20 years that the original piece came out, I think, to 2003. But I don't remember. I don't even remember the BTV festival that this refers to. It was in a bunch of places back then as a collaboration with the Mixed Reality Lab at the University of Nottingham, and they are using Kickstarter evidently to try to reboot it this year. And I missed the Kickstarter as well, which is unusual because normally I see a lot of stuff on Kickstarter.
I thought there was an app, I want to say like 2009, 2010, like Running with Zombies.
Oh, it's more recent than that. But yes, there is.
Yeah, but it was a similar concept, if not as fleshed out as this, because it was just you, your phone, and virtual zombies with stuff coming in through your headphones saying, hey, they're coming up on you, etc. But yeah, this is it's. I think it's interesting on the intersection, Michael, as you call out, between real world and I'll say augmented world, right? Because it's not a true, fully virtual environment because there are overlaps and intersects, and you're not running with goggles.
Well, right. And that to me is now, how do we get to that blended reality? Because in the city, if you're playing a game like this, you want to be playing the game with the people you're playing the game, not with people who are not playing the game. Because that would probably be pretty darn annoying if you were doing tag or hide and seek or whatever. And
Assassin.
The person,
remember that game?
Yeah. Thank you for the correction, Andy. Yeah, those are two separate ones. But the fact that this had come out, and this is a detailed article for Runner's World, talking about how to encourage more people in running. And so leveraging the same concept as Pokemon Go, get out there, get exercise, hit the Pokemon gyms, collect and do. A little more beyond the notion of Zombies Run, which were zombies chasing you, like the ghosts kind of notion that we had in Mario Kart and others, to try to inspire better performance or to race against yourself.
Did I tell you? More. I don't think I've spoken about this on the show. I went to a friend's birthday. It was an event birthday within the last couple of months, and she hired an arcade with novelty automata in there, and there was a load of cool. It's in central London, and it's kind of a load of handmade arcade type machines, and one of them is this one, which is essentially Zombies Run, but it is they've got physical pedals that you have to pedal up and down, and or shift from left to right to avoid the zombies coming towards you or these they're little tiny things coming towards you on the screen, which was super fun. There was a load of other good things in there as well, but which are all these kind of physical manifestations of video game type situations. So there's one where you have to fly using kind of physical handles. You have to fly a drone around this big mansion and zoom in and get photos through the windows of these celebrities in compromising positions.
Paparazzi.
And then go into like, if you do it all within the right time, then it goes into this digital newspaper that then gets printed out that you get at the end, which is super fun. And when awesome. I say it's a little drone, it's a tiny little thing.
Postage stamp
sized drone, right? Yeah, exactly.
Running an Atari.
Around a big physical, table-sized mansion. So, yeah. Talking about Zombies Run suddenly reminded me of that situation in the last couple of months.
That's really cool. So next up is a story about grandmas and Skyrim, and Michael, you have some thoughts about this.
Yeah, this caught my eye earlier this week, and this is the Skyrim grandma who evidently had been doing a streaming career for a long time on the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and came out of retirement to try to play Elder Scrolls Oblivion. And it's really funny. There's a very long video clip that the article links you to of her kind of starting off playing the game. And it reminded me so much of me. No, I'm not a grandmother. And no, I don't Twitch stream my games. But
are you
what
an elder?
It was... in some sense, I guess. elder spokesperson for the podcasting generation. No. And she's going in there trying to play Oblivion, and it reminded me of kind of going back and trying to play Skyrim again recently, probably within the last 6 months, and how much I totally had forgotten the entire UI. And the mechanic of moving, and the mechanic of interacting with things, the mechanic with shooting, because every game has their own. And it's been so long since I played it that I felt like the beginning of her video of like, well, how do I do this? How do I open that? And it was so hilarious to me. So it's something that the gameplay designs. There used to be kind of a common behavior, WASD, right? was movement, and as we've gotten more controls and more different ways of interacting, the games may look a lot better and are really cool, but sometimes there needs to be kind of a meets min mechanic to keep games going forward, especially if you don't play them very often.
Yeah, excellent point. Next up is a touch on the folks from over at Panic, not at the disco, but the folks that created the Playdate. And Andy's
is
like,
just going nuts, waving his around.
So, do you have the season 2 games for one low price? Yeah,
I do.
Which is your favorite?
Played all of them?
Well, so no, because they're released over the course of the season. So
I know.
I do want to talk very briefly about. My Playdate's one of those things that I have occasionally pulled out and played with for a little bit. I do find the screen a bit frustrating because it's not backlit, and so you have to have good lighting in order to see what you're doing. Quite often, I'm home in the evening and the lighting is lower, or there's artificial lighting, so I find the screen a little less easy to see, which is probably why I spend less time with it. But Playdate Season 2 is this new series of games that they're coming out with and releasing over the course of a number of weeks. So we're in the second week. I've got there's currently 5 games available, because the first week, that as well as the 2 games that came out that week, Fulcrum Defender and Dig Dino, there is another app,
which sounds like a great game,
mysterious app called Blippo Plus, which looks like a little kind of TV, and then you go into it and you get this kind of program guide that you can literally cycle through, and then you cycle through the program guide, and then you kind of tune in using the crank. And when I first got this, it was last week and I was away and I didn't have like a good connection, but when I got home my Wi-Fi woke up, and I realized that actually this is all 1-bit graphics, so it's just this very black and white images, but they've actually got streaming video on here. Not only that, they update it, as well as having this program guide that you can go through and kind of find these programs and these shows. You've got this streaming video, live video coming in here, and every week on a Thursday, which is when the games drop, they actually update it as well. It's got its own little community of people on the subreddit about Playdate. You've got to get the crank right, otherwise it will say the signal's too weak. I'm literally cranking it as I talk to you both, and the channels change and you get these really nice effects. If I stop cranking, then it will eventually settle in and you get to start interacting with the content. So I just wanted to talk about it. It's a great idea. The fact that you've got this additional thing that they've created along with the games, I think that's
cool.
It's really fun.
Yeah, well, the best thing, or maybe a very unique thing about the Playdate, is the crank. And speaking of which, we need to crank ourselves on out of here.
Ooh, yeah.
Great set of content here again this week. Thank you very much for the folks that passed along some of the sites for us to evaluate and take a look at and talk about. You can find us again here next week on gamesatwork.biz, and we'll have more for you.
See ya.
See ya, everybody.
Bye. You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming technology and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.